I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
So let us just have a quick recap of what we have discussed in the last class. Right, we were actually uh, we had a discussion on the different types of orientations regarding the international business, whether it is the ethnocentric orientation, which is focusing more on the home country, right? And then we have the polycentrism, focusing on individual markets, treating them as unique markets. Then the regiocentrism, dividing the world markets into specific regions based on geography, based on the commonalities in terms of culture or legal framework or consumer preferences. And finally, the, the global companies having the geocentric orientation. Okay, before anything else, I'm happy with the response of the students who have submitted their assignment. Still, there are a lot many students who have not submitted. I mean, still there is some time. They can submit it in a day or two by the end of this week. I mean, by tomorrow they can submit it. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Oh. So how did you find that exercise? It was a small exercise in trying to gain some kind of, understanding of the current issues or the contemporary issues in the international business. So I want to hear it from you. What exactly, you came across? What are the main issues?
Sir, it might include some language barriers.
Yes.
Some language barriers, while issues like language barriers,
Okay.
money exchange.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. So for issues related to foreign exchange, issues related to language barriers, okay, that's fine. Or you may call it as cultural issues, communication
and
barriers.
taxation and policies.
Yes.
Taxation and policies issues that different countries have different policies and different foreign policies. So it may create some problems.
Very true. Very true.
Cyber threat.
Yes.
Cyber threat, cyber security issues. Nowadays there are a lot of data breaches.
Okay. So what I understand is that you are talking about the broad external environment of international business, right? What are the different influencers? What are the different environmental factors which affect the international business or which influence the international business? One of them is, as you have told very rightly, the cultural factors. In fact, it is one of the most important influencers of international business. And basically, as we progress with this, subject, we'll find that culture has a very, very strong influence on the conduct of business. And this actually spells the difference between success and failure of many, organizations who are trying to make their presence felt internationally. Then similarly, you have the technological factors, the penetration of technology, the penetration of internet in different countries, the usage patterns. And now what we are seeing, a very important, I would say, observation, that in the earlier days, People used to watch television a lot. Now the time, I mean that place has been taken over by internet, because internet gives you the convenience of time. It gives you a lot of flexibility. It gives you the freedom what you want to watch, what you don't want to watch at your own convenience. I mean, there are no time slots. You want to watch a YouTube channel, so you can do it anytime. It's available there. Plus, a very strong, I mean, internet has emerged as a very, very strong medium of communication, especially with the social media platforms where people are sharing their opinions, their perceptions, their experiences with the products and services. And they're not just experience, I mean, they're sharing the photographs, and there are so many platforms to choose from. And for consumers, this serves as a, some kind of a reference point where they can compare, they can refer to, they can get more information about the product from other than company sources, because advertising is basically, it's a, it's a tool which is controlled by the organization, by the company which is selling products and services. But when we look at the social media, we find that it is more independent. Even although the companies do try to manipulate, they do try to control the content which is available on the internet, but still there's a lot of independent opinion which is available. So this is yet another very important factor. Then as somebody very rightly said, the political environment, what kind of governments we have in different countries, how do they interfere or how do they regulate the different companies who are doing business in their countries, plus the rules regarding, the laws regarding the conduct of business, whether it is labor laws, whether it is laws. Yes. Yes, you want to say something? Then you have the laws regarding the taxation, repatriation of funds, as very rightly pointed out by uh, one of you about the foreign exchange rates, the conversions, the movement of funds between different countries and subsidiaries. So overall, and the economic environment, the per capita income, the propensity to consume, the propensity to save, right? All different things are there, and it varies from country to country, region to region. And that is why it is very important for most of the firms who are entering into the international markets to. Are we together? Am I able to make my point clear?
Yes, sir.
आवाज आप लोगों को साफ आ रही है?
Yes, sir. It is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with this background, obviously we'll come back to the international business environment subsequently in a more formal way. Let us just move on with one more discussion, that is the stages of internationalization, or you can also call it as, step by step. It is based some kind of a path of growth, how a company may enter into the international markets, It may start as a small venture and later on grow into a big multinational enterprise. Some of the distinctions which have been made here in this are just for the purpose of, for the academic purpose. In the practical sense, some of the distinctions which are made here or some of the terminologies which are used here, they are used interchangeably. So we'll try to have a look at that. Now, the first one is, as we all understand, a very, very basic, stage, or the first stage for any organization is that it becomes a domestic company, and basically it is operating within the home country in the country of its origin, and that's why its main focus is to exploit or to cater to the needs of the domestic customers, and perhaps that is the reason why they are more into analyzing the national environment of the country, formulating the strategies to exploit the opportunities offered by the business environment of the home country. So, like any organization, this is the first step that you may start as a domestic company and perhaps becoming an international company may be one of the, it may remain as one of the aspirations. It may remain as some kind of, future objective, that once we gain a foothold in the domestic markets, then subsequently we will try to make it big, or we'll try to explore the international markets. And most commonly it happens that first such kind of companies, they try to test waters in the neighboring, countries, the countries which are neighbors. So an Indian company may try selling its products in the neighboring countries like Pakistan, maybe in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, or maybe other SAARC nations. So that can be one, that can be the beginning point. Right? So you start as a domestic company, and the next natural step is, or the next natural stage is the international company. Now here, these companies or such companies, they select the strategy of locating the branch in the foreign market and extend the same domestic operations into the foreign markets. In fact, if we compare this stage that of international company with the previous stage that was the domestic company, one difference that you will see is that domestic company primarily looks at the international markets as export markets, as export destinations. It does not think in terms of setting up its operations in the international markets. It rather looks at them as export destinations. So that's why its entire focus is on developing the capabilities in the home country market. And subsequently, if there is a surplus, or if it wants to realize the economies of scale, then it may sell the excess products to the foreign markets through by the way of exporting them. Whereas in case of international companies, they select they select the strategy of locating a branch or their overseas operations in a foreign market, and they try to conduct the business almost on the pattern of their home country or domestic operations. These companies, they remain ethnocentric, or as we can say that they remain as domestic country oriented, because most of their guidance, most of their, you know, sorry, is coming from the home country market. And this again is a very, very cautious approach because of the, the reasons that you have, a small firm which is just a startup. It may have limited financial resources. It may have limited managerial resources. So as a part of its learning experience, it may enter into the foreign markets in a way, as if, it is doing some kind of a test marketing. So it will not undertake too much of risk. It will not commit too much of its resources, whether financial or otherwise, into the foreign markets. And gradually, I mean, its process of internationalization is more what you may call as step by step. It gains entry into one foreign market, and once it registers success there and it gains recognition as a brand, as an organization, then subsequently it may start entering into maybe subsequently it may start entering into two markets at a time or three markets at a time. So still it remains to be a very, very cautious approach, as it is mentioned here, that it is still a risk averse approach. The third stage or the third type of internationalization is that of a multinational company. Now, this is also referred to as a multi-domestic company, and you may see that it is more of polycentric orientation, as you can see here, that in this kind of a setup, in this kind of a strategy to internationalize, the guiding philosophy is of polycentrism, where a multinational corporation works like a domestic company in the individual countries where it has chosen to start its operations. And in such a situation, it will try to set up its factories, its offices, its own distribution network, and it will try to rely more on the workforce of those countries where it is setting up its operations. And based on polycentrism, the multinational company will try to formulate its strategy which is best suited to those individual countries. It will not have an umbrella strategy, rather it will have specific strategies for those individual markets based on the business environment which is available or which is present in that particular country where it is having its operations. So we started with a domestic company, moved on with an international company, and finally at the third stage we find the multinational company. Obviously, when we say multinational company, the difference between the international company and multinational company, as I am sure you will be able to understand, that an international company is more cautious and its policy is like, one at a time, one country at a time, step by step, gradually, it tries to make its forays into the international markets. Whereas a multinational company, maybe on the basis of its success in the home market or its previous experience, depending upon the kind of product it is selling and the kind of demand that exists in the international markets, and also on the basis of the resources that it has. So it may enter into multiple countries at a time in one go. Right? So it is a more, I would say, that an approach which is risk friendly. It assumes a calculated risk in order to make, in order to make entry into the several countries or several international markets in one go. Right? So it is like, taking the market by us some kind of a surprise. So it is a strategy if it is backed with strong products and services and some very good policies, strong distribution network. So this may work in the favor of the parent company or the organization which is following this strategy. Moving further, then we have the global company. It is very much similar to what we have discussed in geocentrism. It is a global company is one which has its production in home country and focuses on the marketing these products globally and focusing on you know marketing these products domestically as well. But at the same time, it may also refer to a situation and which is more appropriate that it is having its production in multiple locations, right? And at the same time, it is focusing the entire global market without any distinction, right? So that would be case with the global company. And finally, as I was saying, that there are terms which are used interchangeably. Another term that you will find is a transnational company. This is in fact more appropriate with a global company. This is a more appropriate terminology, right? Instead of what we have seen in the slide for stage 4. This is more appropriate. The transnational company produces, markets, invests, and operates across the world. Now, this is a more appropriate definition. And that's why I personally feel that a transnational company or a global company is more or less the same, right? It is an integrated global enterprise which links the global resources with global markets at a profit. So there is no specific place where it is manufacturing its products. There are no specific markets from where it is sourcing its funds or raising its funds. So depending upon the economies, depending upon the cost economies, time economies, distribution economies, the transnational company makes a decision to produce, to invest, to market its products. And the basic idea is that the whole venture should ultimately turn out to be profitable, and it should not only be profitable for the company, but it should also be equally profitable, or I would say cost effective for the for the consumers. The product should be available at the best possible price for the consumers. However, the academicians, they say that there's no such pure transnational corporation. That is obviously may remain as a part of the academic debate. So these are the 5 stages of internationalization. We shall continue with our discussion. Now, let me just briefly, before we wind up today's session, because this, this will happen to be a small session, and we have already talked about the export mode of business. What other modes of business are available? Yes, besides the export marketing, this slide is uh, summing up what we have discussed so far about the international market, about the different orientations and the stages. So it brings the two concepts together. So just now we have discussed that one most commonly used option for those firms which do not want to take much risk is export marketing. So, and it tries to focus on whatever surplus production that you may have, you can you know sell it abroad. You can just simply send it abroad as consignments, and there you have buyers and who will take care of it. But when we talk of export marketing, we don't have much control over the markets. We don't know the markets. We just know a few buyers who are buying a product, and subsequently they are branding it, they are selling it, and even the scope for the profit is very, very limited. We take the price which our wholesale buyers are offering to us. But then this kind of a mode involves low risk and less commitment and almost very less marketing efforts. But then in return of this, you are not getting any brand recognition, you're not getting any penetration into the market, and you stay where you are. You remain just an export marketer. And for the buyer who is located in the international markets, who's located abroad, for you, for that buyer, you are just a supplier, you are just a vendor, right? So, internationally or in the international markets, you don't have any recognition. And perhaps that is the reason why the organizations, in order to make, or create international brands, they enter into the stage of multinational business. And then that is the stage where they set up their operations internationally. They develop their own communication, they develop their own brands. It is a definitely a time taking process. It requires lots of investments, but then at the same time, the dividends or the returns are also high. It does entail a lot of risk, but that is how we find that an organization is going to grow from a domestic company to export marketing company, and from export marketing company it becomes a multinational marketing company, and finally it becomes a global venture or a transnational company, which is no longer, you just cannot track it down to any one particular company. Maybe it has the country of origin or the headquarters are located in any, in the country from where it originally started. But then what we find, just like McDonald's or KFC or Coca-Cola, Sony started its operations in Japan, but now it is having its operations all over the world. Similarly, for the brands I was talking about, which are originally the US brands, but at the present time, they are the global corporations having their production facilities, having their investments, having their funds committed in different countries, and ultimately, what you may call them, they do, they do fall into the frame of being called as the transnational companies. So this is where we'll end today's discussion, and from here we will continue the next class, inshallah. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.